Well, thank you, and welcome once again to Where Are They Now? And yes, we have heard from all those great guests we've had from time to time, and this is just yet another one. And it happens a couple of times a year, every time. Amazing when Iowa State shows up on a football and basketball schedule that we always call in my good friend Eric Heft up in Ames, Iowa. Well, not Ames, you're probably in Des Moines. How are things up there now, man?
I tell you what, I'm glad we're not playing today.
Oh.
Man, I played golf today. It was about 60 when we started, and the temperature dropped, and the wind's blowing about 20 miles an hour. Supposed to be nice on Saturday though, so should be good. Winds, 6-7 miles an hour, so shouldn't be a big factor in the game. So today, not a great day for football or golf for that matter, but Saturday should be great.
You've become so soft in your old age. I mean, that would have never bothered you 10 years ago.
I still played. I mean, come on, man.
Oh, okay.
I did the deal.
So you didn't run into the okay.
And fleeced a few guys. So I mean, it was all good.
Oh, that's the best. That'll warm your heart every time, right?
It certainly made it a lot warmer.
And you're still sandbagging with the best of them. I can't believe you must get new partners every time you go out and just convince them that I haven't played in about 6 months. I don't know.
Well, I'm old. Come on, man. Come on, man.
You are that. No, I will admit that.
I am that. Yes, I am.
But, your pockets are full of money, so you must be convincing somebody somewhere along the way. All right, enough frivolity. How about this game on Saturday? It appears to be, with all the trappings of all the marbles in the middle of the table kind of game, and you would expect both teams to give it everything they've got.
Oh, no question. And I think as you look at the Big 12 race, I mean, Oklahoma State, Cowboys could probably afford a loss more than Iowa State could. Iowa State already has the one loss to Baylor, and they just have no margin for error. So their backs are against the wall. But that's when they typically play best. They went from early in the year, a top 10 team, and struggled a little bit early in the year. The mentality really switched from they were the hunted, and that's really not where Iowa State has been. These players haven't really been there. Now they're back to being the hunter, and I think that really suits their psyche so much better. And I know they're fired up for the opportunity to play Saturday.
Now, Matt's he's not gonna preach this, I don't think. Certainly the coaches won't lay this on the players. But can you sense this importance as far as the fan base is concerned? I mean, they could look at standings too. They know where Iowa State is and is not, if you will.
Sure. I mean, our guys know where they are. I mean, they're a bunch of really smart guys. They know how important the game is. They also know that Oklahoma State's really good. And matter of fact, it's a team that I think it's the only team that Matt has not defeated in Ames.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the first coach ever to beat every team in the league on the road. First we've ever had. I mean, which is a heck of an accomplishment. We finished that last Saturday at Kansas State. That was the last place he hadn't won. So, I mean, but they know that Oklahoma State, sometimes games are about matchups. And Iowa State, well, every game has been close. They haven't been able to get over the hump against the Cowboys, and I know they're itching to do so Saturday.
I was looking at the notes, and I was not even aware of this. I'm sure you were, but 13-1 in the last 14 games at home against Big 12 teams, and the only loss, you guessed it, Oklahoma State.
Well, last 3 years, we're 15-2 in October. So those two losses, both to the Cowboys. So I mean, yeah, obviously they've had Iowa State's number, and like I said, the games have been close. A play or two here, a kick or two here, but it hasn't gone that way. The other thing is Oklahoma State's had good teams. It's not like you're losing to a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. What Coach Gundy has done in Stillwater has been, I mean, really outstanding. And I think the biggest evolution to me is the improvement to make that defense really a top 10, top 15 defense in the country. I mean, I think they're really good. And that always is going to present a challenge.
You opened the door just a minute ago, and if you had the answer, obviously you'd probably be a richer guy than you are because they would come to you for advice. But Iowa State has been slow out of the gate for the last couple of years and lost games to some teams, at least from outside in. It didn't look like they would, and had games played a little closer than outside in you didn't think it would.
Yeah, early in the year, I mean, for some reason, it just takes a little longer for this team to kind of find their bearings, But once they do, I mean, they've been really good. And, this year was no exception. Brock got off to a tough start. I mean, Brock Purdy's having a terrific season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 73% completion. He has 4 interceptions, 3 of them against Iowa. They'll obviously hurt, but that's early in the year. And since then, his only interception came on a tip ball. The big lineman from Baylor got his hand up and went right to a linebacker. But other than that, I mean, he's been so sharp, and the command with which he has been playing lately, I think it's the best he's ever played. It's been at Iowa State, and that's saying a lot because he's got 30 school records. I mean, the guy's thrown for over 10,000 yards, rushed for over 1,000. I mean, he's been terrific, and he's playing the best football, I think, of his career right now.
This could be said for every quarterback anywhere, okay? So it's not just Brock Purdy's situation. But, again, when we're looking from here to Ames, it seems like Brock will run hot and cold, maybe a couple of times the same quarter. When he's hot, I mean, it's hard to stop that pinpoint passing that he has and how he runs the show. When he's not or lukewarm, the offense doesn't look near as good.
Yeah, you're right. You could say that about any quarterback. I mean, when your quarterback's playing well, things tend to look a lot better. 3rd and 8 doesn't look like an insurmountable option, and you're going to have a number of those, and you got to find ways to make plays. But Brock, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, has really been spot on, just almost flawless, if you will. And that for us, I mean, that's great to see because when your quarterback struggles, it makes life tougher. Even though you've got Breece Hall, who's really pretty good in his own right. I mean, one of the very best running backs in the country, unanimous All-American last year. So but Brock's got some weapons. And I think for whatever reason, it seems Brock has been one of the reasons Iowa State has started slow. He has started slow pretty much each year. And when he gets into a rhythm and knows who to trust, I mean, he's got guys who've been around for a while. I mean, Charlie Kohler, he have been huge parts of the Iowa State offense for a long time. Hutchinson has been a great add last year at wide receiver, a terrific wide receiver. But Sean Shaw's starting to come around and get healthy for the first time, really in a long time. So he's got some big targets, and the confidence that he has really derived. He doesn't start the season with seemingly a lot of confidence, but, man, it grows. And right now, I think it's at an apex.
How difficult is it, and we see it from week to week, not difficult for you guys because you make it difficult, but when you got a couple of tight ends, and you can go 3 tight ends at a time, I guess, if you want to. But
we do a lot.
Kohler, Allen, I guess Dean is part of that.
Jared Russ is great blocker. It's
tough to have to handle that security blanket twice over because it doesn't take much. I mean, seemingly a tight end in most offenses is going to be open somewhere along the line. Block, drift out, and here I am. But these guys are something else again.
Charlie Kohler's an All-American. I mean, 2-time All-American, 6'6", the kid got terrific hands, great catch radius. He's able to get off coverage, and give Brock a target. And Brock has so much confidence in him. I mean, that just makes life a lot easier. And Chase Allen, the other tight end, 6'7", 6-year guy, really experienced. And so those guys are security blankets. And now Sean Shaw, if he can, we've kind of been missing that wide receiver too. Mm-hmm. Hutchinson's been great, and then last week we saw a mix of guys really perform well. Tariq Milton, who's been injured, missed almost all of last year, was a big loss for this team last year, and he's kind of been slow to come back this year. But he showed some signs Saturday, and then the true freshman Jalen Knoll has been really good, and getting Sean Shaw back, another 6'5" guy. The weapons that Brock has at his disposal, pretty good. And you throw in, Breece has never been a big pass catcher, mm-hmm. and he's caught 21 balls this year. So that's another dimension. Most of those are check downs, and you get the Breece out in space. That's a tough matchup. for a safety coming up for sure.
How would you grade the offensive line? I mean, certainly with Downing and Newell, those are guys that come to everybody's everybody's list. But any help along that line?
Well, Derek Schweiger, I think was second team All Big 12 last year at guard. They've moved him to right tackle, and he's just a baller. I mean, he's not. He didn't have a Division II offer coming out of high school. Mm-hmm. Former walk-on. I say he's pretty workmanlike. The big change was last Saturday with the left tackle. Sean Foster is a sixth-year guy. Started every game last year, and he basically got beat out by a redshirt sophomore, this kid named Jared Hufford, who they really think is going to be outstanding. He had a really good game, and he's going to remain in the starting lineup. So I would, as a grade, I would give them a B right now. We'll see how they do against the Cowboy front because very imposing front for sure.
We talk about all these guys on offense, and you didn't do it, but it's almost like, Breece Hall's the running back too.
Yeah, right.
It's like, hey, how about the fact is Breece Hall is the running back, and it's hard to keep him under 100 yards any day.
He can break the big one, but as much as anything, he can also move the chains. The guy, he's patient, but when he sees that, hey, there's not much here, I'm going to get a couple yards, 2 or 3 yards, because you know what? That's going to put us in a better situation to make that first down, on third down. He was dinged up early in the year too. He was injured late in fall camp, so his first couple games, he just wasn't quite himself. But he's getting back to. Matter of fact, I think he is back. Matter of fact, his numbers right now, after 6 games, are almost identical to what they were last year when he led the nation in rushing. So he's a load, 220 pounds. He's not the fastest guy, but he's plenty fast. And, man, just great instincts, and the patience he shows is outstanding.
Let's flip it over to the defensive side now real quick. You still got the Eisworths of the world and Rose and Young. Those guys know how to play on their level of the defense. Has it been as productive as it's been in the past? You stayed with the same lineup, so to speak, haven't you?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That's been something we've been doing since mid-season, I think, 2017. And, no, it's been great. Matter of fact, we have coaches come here in the summer all the time. Brett Venables brings his whole staff up. Let's see, okay, how are you guys doing this? A lot of people want to maybe pick the brain of John Haycock, who's a terrific defensive coordinator. You've got to have good personnel, too. The one guy you didn't even mention, was Will McDonald, who tied for the national lead in sacks last year, led the Big 12 in sacks. And he's a guy it's really hard to keep out of the backfield. And not only the sacks he's had this year, I think he's got 5.5. But he's been held probably drawn 6 or 7 holding penalties too. He's just one of those guys who impacts the game. And the big difference from him this year, he was more of a situational guy last year because we had Jaquan Daly, who was our career leader in sacks, and they kind of split some time. But now I think the big difference for him, he's bulked up a little bit. He's much, much better against the run, and he's a pretty good edge defender, against the run or the pass right now.
Draw it up for us here visually. It's still the 3-3 look, 3-3 stack look. You bring guys up and back and forth to the line of scrimmage. Tell us about it.
Well, that's the whole philosophy. Number one, you got 5 DBs. When this was put in the league, it's more of a running league now than it's been in the last several years because it's so pass heavy. Something to combat that. But they've been really good against the run too. And part of it is you got a linebacker like Mike Rose, last year's Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year and All-American. He's the guy, 250 pounds, can go sideline to sideline, and he's a sure tackler. And the mentality with which he plays, he's very cerebral. He's in the right place a ton of the time. They'll bring a Ryan Vance, the middle linebacker. They'll line him up on the edge, kind of like outside the defensive end. A really good blitzer. They like to mix up their blitz packages, but biggest thing is keep everything in front. Don't give up the really big play downfield. Mm-hmm. And they've been really good at that so far this year, and they'll have to continue, obviously. But the secondary is pretty experienced for the most part. kind of a young guy at corner in TJ Tampa, who's we think is going to be an NFL guy, terrific player, but still learning the position a little bit. But you have Greg Eisworth, 3-time first-team All Big 12, really solid safety, and he's like a coach out there for the other young guys like Aisheem Young, who's last year's Big 12 freshman defensive player of the year. So you got some talent back there. You got to have talent. I mean, you can have great schemes, but you got to have guys who can make plays. And one of the areas where we've been really good, all those guys from D-line to linebacker to the third level, they're all really good tacklers. And, man, what a big deal that is.
Oh, you'll get your chance to tackle one of the best in Warren this week, for sure.
Oh, boy. Where did he come from, man?
Utah State, a transfer, portal guy.
Right.
And I don't know that he was even close to that when he was out there, or he's just kind of turned it on since he's come here. But he is a load now. There's no doubt about that. And it's one of these days where if you're tackling Warren 25 to 30 times a game now, this guy's your shoulders are going to hurt a while.
Well, no question about it. And I look at him, and I just think about the conference in general, and how I think the defenses have really taken a step forward from maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And there's so many really good defenses in the league. It's also turned into a league where there are a lot of great running backs. Certainly Jalen Warren's one, Breece Hall, Deuce Vaughn, Bijan Robinson, Letty Brown. There's just so many really good backs. And I don't know if you saw that 5 or 6 years ago either.
Hey, I got to ask you this in the time we have left. I mean, assuming it's going to go to form, and I think all of us think it's going to be maybe down to the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game to decide it, then we start talking about special teams. And I'm intrigued with your punter, who's a San Francisco Community College guy, your field goal guy. My goodness, Mevis, let me tell you, he comes from a school that turned me down. I applied to go to Fordham, and I got one of those thanks, but no thanks.
I didn't realize that Fordham even had any standards. You couldn't get in?
No, I didn't apply to be the kicker. I didn't apply to be the kicker. I just applied to go to school. And I didn't realize they had a football team, to be honest with you. But here he is, and I guess he's kind of stepped up, huh?
He's been great. He's got a huge leg. His brother is a kicker for Mizzou.
Yeah.
And between the two of them, man, they're having a great year. He was a special teams player of the week. We didn't really know. I mean, Connor Asali has been okay. He just doesn't have a real strong leg. And we couldn't kick it into the end zone. I think we had maybe 3 or 4 touchbacks a year ago. And he had 9 against Kansas, which, of course, when you play Kansas, you get a lot of chances,
True.
for the kickoffs. But he had 9 touchbacks in that game and did a great job. But we didn't know if he was going to be the guy to actually, kick field goals. And he has been really good. I mean, he was 4 for 4 from 40 and beyond last week, and they were all right down the middle with, 8 to 10 yards to spare. So that's been a luxury that we really haven't had. Punting, on the other hand, big issue for us right now. Corey Dunn, the Aussie, I think he's like 30 years old.
He must know Tom Hutton then. They're about the same age.
He's really struggled, and so actually we replaced him with Cameron Shook, a guy, and he's maybe a 35-yard punter. I mean, so that can be an issue for this team. I mean, we're hoping he doesn't have to punt very often, but we know that's probably not the case.
All right, I got to ask you this, since today was Big 12 Media Day on the hoop side. Give us a little snapshot of what Iowa State may or may not look like this year with the new coach.
I wish I knew. The new coach I know very well. I mean, I've known him for 15 years. He's been an assistant here a couple different times. This is a job he's wanted for a long time. He was head coach at South Dakota State. Left Iowa State to go there as the head coach, and then at UNLV. T.J. Otzelberger he's a driven guy and organized. But our team, we've got nothing back from a team that didn't win a game in a conference last year. So the transfer portal was pretty good. But we're going to see how it all meshes. We got a top 40 kid as point guard, a freshman, but he's the only point guard we really have. So it's a lot to dump on his shoulders. But we also have 3 transfers who I think can be significant contributors. Isaiah Brockington from Penn State, averaged double figures, 6'5", electric athlete, Gabe Kalsher, double-figure score at Minnesota, who's a grad transfer, and then a kid who actually sat out last year, who transferred from Ole Miss, in Blake Hinson. 6'6", 230 pounds, can really shoot it and can score. Double-figure score 2 years at Ole Miss. So we have some guys who can play, we think.
Well, and you'll have...
Will it come together? There's a reason why in the coaches poll, or the poll that came out, we were picked last again this year. As a matter of fact, if I look at it right and read the tallies right, I think we were unanimous last place selection. So I think anything above that, I think we have a chance to be okay. I know our guys are going to play hard, and the emphasis on defense and the improved athletic ability that we have is going to be great. But with a freshman point guard, you're just asking a lot. He's got to be good every night, and that's not always going to happen.
Hilton Coliseum be full again, I guess?
Maybe not completely full, but I'd be shocked if we didn't average 11 or 12.
That's good.
Which is still pretty good.
Yeah, it'll make a little bit of noise.
Yes,
nobody likes playing there. Hey,
especially if this team does the little things. You see guys scrapping and hustling and things like that. Crowd loves that, and I think this team will certainly give them that.
As always, we appreciate your time. I know how difficult it was to come in off the course and spend time with us, but I'm glad Mother Nature drove you inside anyway, which is good. I mean, at least you didn't.
I was going to be inside, but I look forward to the Cowboys coming to town. I know it's a tough matchup for us, but we're all really looking forward to it.
Hey, they are down here as well, just a couple more days. Hey, appreciate your time, buddy. We'll talk soon.
All right, can't wait.
All right,
Thanks, Tom.
All right, bud. Eric Heft, good time.